Hey, welcome. It's Captain Matt, Boater Secret Weapon. I want to thank you for joining us for this Sunday night live. We're getting ready to start here in just a couple of minutes here. We'll start about 8:30, but I wanted to welcome you. If you've never been to a live, here's what you can expect. Just go ahead and chat in your comment section, on whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. Just ask your question, leave your comment there, and then as we go through the time, I just kind of scroll down all the comments and I try to answer them. Now, if it's something that I need to ask you a question, I may ask you a question and just put it in the chat again, and I'll come back and I'll get that information so I can give you a more personalized response, something that's going to really add value for you. This is just something I do. One, it's great fun. I really enjoy it. It's helpful for the community, just sharing my knowledge. Now, one thing that you need to know, I don't know everything about boats. I know a lot about boats. I've been a boater since I was 5. I've sold boats. It's something that is a big part of my life. With that said, I don't know everything. Matter of fact, sailboats, have zero experience with sailboats. Bass boats, very little experience there. Bow riders, deck boats, center consoles, jet boats, twin engines, stern drives, outboards, inboards, all of that I have experience with. And if I have an answer, I'll give you my best answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll try to give you a resource that will be valuable for you. If I have an opinion, I'll try to give you that opinion, but let you know this is what I think, not what I absolutely know. So I look forward to it. Here's a little video intro that a subscriber made for me. Thanks, Bo. And we'll see you on the live when it kicks off here in just a moment. Welcome everybody to the live. Got a little bit of a late start today, thanks to it being the first day of school tomorrow. So time to get on a schedule, time to get the girls in bed at a reasonable time. And that means reading stories. Tonight we read about Michael Jordan with my youngest daughter. So my oldest was reading about the Titanic, which hopefully nobody's had a bad experience like that in the last couple weekends. So welcome everybody. Ray, saw you on. Welcome Ray from Indiana. Welcome Brock from down in Charleston. And yeah, I saw one of your comments, Brock, about it was perfect. We were sitting outside. My sister-in-law came over, and we were sitting outside after dinner, and it was absolutely perfect. It was awesome. Welcome Mike Gable from Pontoon Hydrofoil. He sent me an email the other day about maybe demoing and testing out their hydrofoil, a different approach than the hydrofin, which I've run. So I've got travel coming up, so we'll see if we can make that work or not. And Ben Hunt, welcome. First time I've seen your name in the comments. Welcome to the live. Rodney Turner, what do I know? Welcome, Rodney. What do I know about the 200 XP Evinrude? And that is virtually nothing. Let me see what we're looking at there. What year? 200 XP Evinrude. $2017. About to purchase a Ranger with an Evinrude. Overall opinions. Yeah, I'm not even sure what year that would be. When they made those XPs, had a 90 model XP. So I don't know anything. I can't give you anything, Rodney. What I will tell you, what I was looking that up, is I'll tell you that I've got this belief that after about 5-7 years, that the way a mechanical item has been taken care of is more important than the brand to a certain extent. Because if it was poorly built, if it had issues, they'll be known. You'll be able to do a search on 200 XP Evinrude and see where there are a bunch of people complaining about a couple of issues, 1 or 2 issues, not one-offs, because that could be a number of things. It could be somebody didn't do the maintenance that they should have, and they blamed it on the engine. But if you start seeing lower unit issues, lower unit issues, lower unit issues on a 200 Evinrude XP in that year band that you're talking about, okay, now that's an issue. If you find articles or videos, I try to bring those out, and there's several people on the internet that do that, and you'll find it. But what's most important is, if you don't find that stuff, is how well has that 200 XP Evinrude been taken care of, maintained, oil changes, impeller changes, gear lube changes, all of those types of things. How well does it run under load? How well does it run when you actually have it on the boat with some weight on the boat, full fuel and gear? How does it perform? How does it go from idle to wide open throttle? How does it go if you run it at wide open throttle for 30 seconds to a minute? How does it sound? How does it do in turns? How does it do when you hit wakes? Is there any RPM band where it's spitting and sputtering? Or when you come off the throttle, if you come off it real fast, some engines will die out. But if you just starve it of fuel real quick, or worse, hydrolock. But if you just come back on the throttle fairly easy, but quickly, does it do something that you don't want? Those are the types of things that I would want to check out. If it's just you're buying the loose outboard, okay, let's try to run it on a boat. But just running it on earmuffs won't tell you everything that you want to know. Service records are great if you can find it. So let's see if you piped in with, okay, 1987. Yeah. So even more so in that, Rodney, in if it was an outboard with a known issue, I would have probably known about it. But 1987, Evinrude was still in their heyday. They were still doing real well on the two strokes. That's where they've stayed, because they were the Johnson Evinrudes were great. And because nothing jumps to my head, nothing popped right up when I did that search, tells me the motor's okay as a motor. What about your particular motor? I mean, it's 30 some years old. Make sure that you check the oil, you check the gear lube, you check all of the fluids and the belts and the has the impeller been changed, and then actually run it on load. That's going to be your biggest test. All right. So that's exactly how it goes. You ask a question, I answer it. And if I don't know, I kind of just walk through my thoughts on it. And so that's what you can expect if you're new. And feel free to throw your questions in. I think last week we went 90 minutes. We went an hour and a half. So we will get through all of them here. As long as it doesn't get too late. Welcome, Rhonda. Glad to have you. I noticed I featured Rhonda in the newsletter this week, but somehow her picture turned sideways on me after it went out. So I apologize about sending out your cool picture that you sent me and it getting sideways. Is Nautique worth the extra money versus the other brands? In my opinion, I believe that the Nautique G series are the best surf boats on the market. With that said, is it worth it? To me, no. I don't think, but also I'm not dropping 250 grand on a 25-foot surf boat. So one, it's out of my price range. But is it the best? I think so. I do think that Nautique is the best surf boat going. I put probably Centurion up there, and then it also depends, what do you consider the best? The fanciest, the most prestigious? Nautique. The best wake? I've sat with surfers, with professional surfers and wakeboarders, and they're going to go back and forth, but it's usually Nautique G's versus the Centurions. And I sold Centurion for a short period of time. And I know several dealers that sell Centurion and say their wake is beyond the best. Nautique people will say the same thing. Is it worth the money? I think it really is dependent on what your budget looks like and what's really important to you. The best wake? Yeah, it's not hands down the best wake, I don't think. I think Centurion is definitely in that conversation. And then it's, who's the best dealer in your area? If you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm a big believer that the dealer matters. And I can tell you that you might get some snickers from some of the real big wakeboard people, but you can have just as good a time on a heyday as you can on a Nautique. Now, will it be as nice? No. Will the fit and finish be there? No. Will the quality throughout be there? Absolutely not. Will the technology be there? No. But it's going to give a great surf wave that you can surf and you can wakeboard behind. Not the absolute best, but it's going to be easily surfable for, let's say, 80% of the surfers out there. Like surfer to surfer, they're not going to notice a difference unless you go from a heyday wake to a Nautique wake, like boom. And even then may not be noticeable in your actual surfing, but you can have just as good a time on any other brand that's going to have virtually the same setup. Now it's just a matter of what's going to make Devin happiest, what's going to fit within your particular budget. You know, that you have to take that into account especially when you're talking wake boats, when you're talking the difference between, you know, $250,000 surf boat versus $100,000 surf boat. And there could be that big a gap from the G Paragon to the heyday, the Supremes, that more value level. It matters what's going to make you happy and where you're going to be. Now, I just saw that Mastercraft. I didn't put them in. Normally I would, but you saw that Mastercraft was shutting down potentially the Nautic Star line, a brand that they bought 5 years ago. And I've seen the Mastercraft name kind of come down in my mind from it was the top of the top. And it's sort of just been slowly stepping down. Still a great boat. But I think they're maybe not making some of the best decisions in everything. But I would look at your budget, and then I would look at where the dealers are in your area. That's assuming you're buying new. So if you're buying pre-owned, then it's about, like I said, to Rodney, it's about that particular boat that you're looking at, and how does it fit your budget and your needs. Okay. Let's see if Devin added anything. Holy crap. I bet we got a 22 G. Okay. So this is Devin here real quick. We got a 22 G23. Love the perspective. Well, that's all the way across the country, but my wife and daughter decided that we're going to San Diego next year for a family vacation. So if you're near San Diego, I may be in the neighborhood. So hopefully that gives you that's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on anytime you talk about the top brand versus the entry level brand is Cobalt versus Bayliner. Way better, but I've had a great time on Bayliners. It's all in what's important to you. Let's see, Reddens. First day of school, that's usually, I know, man. It's my family back in Nebraska. My nieces and nephews started school last week. I've got cousins' kids. They all started school last week. My daughter start tomorrow. Boater Tom, welcome. Hey, Boater Tom, thank you for that email that you sent me. And telling me you were Boater Tom. I appreciate that too. And when the screen names don't match up with anything else, I don't put them all together. So Robert L, welcome back. We've missed you the last couple of weeks. Bill Durbin, welcome back. Welcome from Pennsylvania, Jeb. Hello, Sasha. Welcome to the live. Joe from Michigan. Welcome. Dave from Cincinnati, welcome. I'm going to be in Ohio. I'm leaving for Lake Portage, Ohio, just outside Akron tomorrow to do some video shoots. So, 60 degrees, cool. Bust out the hoodie. Hey, Brock, I still owe you a shirt, and I need to just get on it and order it and send it your way, but it's coming. I promise. I didn't just get your address and your shirt size to be a weirdo. There's actually a shirt coming. So, Dave from Cincinnati, have a Robalo R6 160. Very nice center console. Vinny D, Captain, first time watching live, viewed a lot of your videos. Thank you for that. Love it. Thank you for all your help. First time boat owner, 87 Sea Ray Seville. Excited to take it out. That's awesome. A 17 Seville. That was there. I've told the story a couple times, but I used to pump gas. I was the gas guy and worked the kind of bait shop sort of general store at the marina at Branched Oak Lake in Nebraska, when I was in college. And there was it would have been a 91 or 92 Sea Ray, 21-foot Sea Ray. That was, oh man, that was the boat for me. I love that vintage of Sea Rays, and the Seville specifically are have always been one of my favorites. So Chasing Serenity is a pre-purchase compression test always needed. Not worried about the cost. Just heard differing opinions. Curious to hear on an 07 Chaparral. I think, for me, yes. I've had multiple friends buy. Matter of fact, 07. One of them bought a 236 07 Chaparral SSI, and the other one bought a 21, whatever that 216 maybe SSI. And I told them both to do compression checks, and they did it. I've had, and the reason Chasing Serenity that I say this is I had a 2005 Sea Ray. I still remember the exact boat. It was tan and white, Sea Ray 200 Sport. Okay. Great boat. I had it on brokerage. So it was my client selling it, my client buying it. I told all of my clients, get a compression check. It cost $90. This boat ran great. I personally ran it but it was just me and a half a tank of fuel and the little bit of safety gear I needed, which was a pack and a safety throw cushion. Ran great. Yeah, we'll take it in on brokerage. Somebody going to buy it. We need compression check. And I had a little brokerage inspection form that I just told all my brokerage clients, spend the $150 and get this done. Turns out, and this would have been in 2010 or so a 5-year-old boat, had low compression on a cylinder. Took it out, ran great. Took it out with like 6 people on, and then under load, you could hear it missing. We would have never known that if it would have just been me and the guy buying it like we planned. But we actually, because the seller was like, no, it doesn't have, it's fine. I've never had anything happen. It overheated that one time, but it ran fine ever since. Compression tech said, hey, it's only like 60 or 70 on this one cylinder. Everything else is 120s or close to it. And I told my tech, I was like, run it again. This guy's saying it can't possibly be. It can happen. And unless you have that thing under load, it can be such it can run fine until you get a load on it. And then over time, it's going to get worse potentially. But I think it's something, because of that one experience where it probably 1 out of 50 that would happen to. But if that's the one that you're buying, I would rather spend that $100 or whatever to get it done, even though it can be kind of a pain to find somebody to do it, depending on where you're buying. So that's my story and why I always recommend it. And even when I was selling boats, I recommend it because I knew that client, even if the seller was my client too, I knew that if I'm going to sell a boat, I want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on with it. And the same advice I give on this channel is the same advice that I tried to give my clients and took my commission out of it. So I lost, some money on that, but I could go in and I could always feel good when I talked to my clients and knew they were going to like me. All right, Joseph, let's see here. Correct process to ask a question. You got it. Would like to know about an outboard motor, plastic gas tank. Should the cap stay closed or open when it's connected to the motor? So Joseph, it should be closed with some caveats. Is if there's a vent, it should be vented, because if you're talking like a portable gas tank, some of those have a vent that you need to make sure that it's vented properly. But what you don't want is you never want water to be able to get into the tank. That's one of the worst things you can do for an engine. It's why they've got fuel water separators, fuel filters, is to keep all that water out of there. So I would say unless it's a removable tank or some kind of tank that has a weird vent on it, absolutely cap on, closed up, and then vented properly and filtered properly before that gets to the motor. So hopefully, Joseph, that answers the question that you were asking there. Welcome to the channel. And yeah, even if you're on Facebook, you don't see all of these questions coming in, but on Facebook, the questions come right through on the platform I use. So thanks for that. And thanks for joining us. Tom DeRosa, more info to finance timeliness when I do find finance before or after I find the boat. So Tom, welcome back. I know you've been on a couple of times. I like to get the financing approved as a consumer, but they're always going to have to approve the boat as well. So they're going to have to approve the boat from a value perspective, and then they're going to have to approve the boat, do their serial number checks that they need to do, and make sure that everything matches up, that it is a 2007 Chaparral SSI. If it's an outboard, that it is whatever particular Yamaha 150 bump, whatever the model is. And they're going to want to match all of that up, and they're going to want to pull NADA values and make sure that their loan to value is set. So you can get yourself set up, but there's always going to be a boat approval process as well. And the reason I say that is because once you're set up, then that's ready to go. Just know they may ask for, if it's a 30 days, 60 days past, they may ask for a new pay stub. They may have to call and verify employment again. They may pull a new credit report potentially. But at least you've got all that set. And then it's just a matter of getting serial numbers, getting the boat approved, and then you're ready to rock and roll. So hopefully that answers that. All right, let's see, Tom. Don't understand timeline for loan shop offer. So hopefully that explains it, Tom, that came through. And there we go. There's also, I've got a boat loan video where I talk about some of that stuff. I don't know if I specifically go into the process though, but they'll approve you, they'll approve the collateral or the boat motor trailer, and then they will go ahead and fund the loan and everything checks out. They're going to need some information. If there's a loan on the title, they're going to need some information from the owner. If it's a dealer, it's easy enough. If it's a private individual, now they've got to get payoffs from that and make sure that the seller isn't going to owe money to, and make sure they get a clear title when all said and done. Myron, welcome from McDonough, Georgia. Any advice on my 2000 Sylvan 24 tune with the 90? My first pontoon, want to replace the carpet, vinyl floor. What do you recommend? Myron, I have never done any boat restoration stuff, any project. Matter of fact, I reached out to a guy from Kentucky that's got a channel that he redid a Grady. It's called Shots Life. I don't know whether he has any interest in coming on doing a live, but he redid a transom on his it was some Grady dual console that he took in trade, and he's been through that process. My recommendation from is use marine grade plywood if you got to replace the floor. If you're just replacing the carpet, I know people have had success with pontoonstuff.com. That I know people that have done restorations, that they do seats, but they also would do flooring. The vinyl flooring, they call it TPO, or some of the C deck, if you want a little bit more expensive. Some of the bamboo weave is good. Just make sure that you're using a reputable vendor. And again, I wish, Myron, I had some very specifics for you. If anybody has done any pontoon restoration and has advice, unfortunately, that is not something that I have experience with, Myron. So if I come across something, I will. There's a few pontoon restoration channels, and a few there's a few people that have done some on YouTube that you can probably find and learn a bunch from, that have used different materials, and people that have done it multiple times as well. So that might be worth checking out. Bullhog, welcome. Curious when the next state of the market is coming. I was recently quoted $100K for a 219 C Pro. It is. I've been saying this for a while. I've been crazy busy. I'm writing a book. I'm doing the video shoot tomorrow. I'm working on the additional drive system programs. And so I haven't got that done. And frankly, I'm kind of waiting to see if there's a turn. And I may end up waiting until after Labor Day, but I'm still seeing things holding strong. And if you watch my last one, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, is I don't see a big downturn coming. I've talked to too many dealers, too many people in the industry that are telling me, hey, we are still a long ways from catching up on dealer inventory levels. We're still producing customer ordered boats, and we're starting to see outboard shortages still. It's not getting better, especially for the center consoles. If you're putting anything over a 150 or 200 Yamaha, and I even heard, who did I talk to the other day? I talked to a Mercury dealer that was having issues with Mercury outboards as well, which I didn't realize was still happening. I thought Mercury was pretty well caught up, but those bigger horsepower outboards are in tight supply. So in the center console on that C Pro, I think you're a year out from seeing something break in the pricing. Now, if you were buying a stern drive bow rider deck boat, maybe some of the aluminum stuff, the aluminum fishing multi-species boats, I think that's starting to soften. But pontoons, tritoons, center consoles, and jet boats, those three are still going strong. And I would say probably wake boats are in the middle there. They're holding steady, but the other ones are still having demand issues. So, Ben Hunt looking at a 2001 Sea Ray 190 Sun Deck with the 5.0. One owner, 200 hours, raised some questions. They're asking 17, original trailer, immaculate, but still older. Better off spending 10, 15 more and getting something. Curious your thoughts. So you won't find much 07 and back. If you look at the number of boats sold from like 96 to about 2007, production was way up here. Remember what happened in 2007, 2008, mortgage meltdown, production like cut in half. They were building 300,000 boats, 290,000 boats, 350,000 boats. Pandemic hit. There was a glut of inventory because everybody just stopped buying boats. That when the Lehman Brothers and all of that stuff went down, production just stopped, and there was boats sitting, and people had a boat on order, and they like, we're out. Hopefully, I think that's the only thing that will make, if there's a drastic something that happens that will cause the current market to just fall off the table. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a slow and steady, if you want my opinion on that. That was for Bullhog. But because of that, you're not going to find much 08, 09, 2010, 11, 12, 13 production started to go back up. 13, 14, 15. Now you'll see some of those, but there was very, very few boats, 150,000 or so built from 08 on. The reason I say that is because you aren't going to be able to jump up. Maybe you can find something a little bit newer, but I think if that boat is in good condition, you pull compression, you test drive it the way, like you demo it the way I talk about in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy. You follow the toolkit checklist. You put some weight on the boat, you run it, you pull the gear lube, you get service records if they have it, you have a technician go through it. Then I think, hey, you're going to be in good shape. I mean, that's got a 5.0 Mercruiser, which they've been running that engine for a long time, even in 01. It's a proven platform that, and that 190 Sun Deck is a great size boat, trailer. I mean, you've got everything you need. It sounds like you've got a great boat if it's nice and clean. Now it's just make sure that, hey, make sure that you run the boat so that there's nothing mechanical. Run through the freshwater system if it's got it on there. Check all the lights and the gauges. Sea Ray doesn't, especially if it's freshwater, Sea Ray doesn't tend to have electrical issues like some other brands do. So if you run through all the switches and they're good, I feel pretty good about that. Went through the Boat Buyers Academy, loved it. Thank you. Parents own boats, but still first purchase. Yeah. So I would do the compression check. I would have a technician, crack the nut, and check it, the nut. And I kind of showed this on one of my last videos about the service we did on that Mike did, a technician friend of mine on a 70 Yamaha, just so I could kind of talk through it. And we could talk about motor stuff, which is outside of my expertise. But he's been doing it for 20 years. So I pulled his expertise in to share with you guys that nut has a magnet on the end, and that will attract any metal shavings. So if you pull that and there's no metal shavings, I feel pretty good about that after you run it. Just in case that there's they just changed it or something, run it and see if anything happens. Check the oil before and after you run it. Do all those things, and you very well could have found a fantastic first boat, a boat that you're going to be able to run for a couple of years. And if you decide to change your style, whatever, then there's you're not going to have that huge depreciation if you bought new, even no matter what the market does. That boat is what, 16 years old? No, what is it? 20 years old, 21 years old. But it could still have a lot of life left in it. But do check and make sure, check that engine compartment before you go. Make sure that you don't see any leaks or any oil or anything like that that's coming out. And that's where a technician that would know exactly where to look, maybe even put a little dye in the oil, a little dye in the gear lube, so that you can check with the UV light and see if there's something that comes through. If you have those mechanical skills, otherwise, hire a mobile technician. They will come out and do it for a fee, and you can spend a little bit of money and get some good insurance on that. So Ben, let me know if you have other questions to follow up with that. But hopefully that was helpful for you. And it sounds like a great find. All right, Devin, we talked about Brock. I think I mentioned the safe temperature range trailer hubs. What were Brock, I think he said he pulled over 2,500 miles per year. Upstate New York. Welcome, Jeff. Glad to have you. Portage Lakes, Ohio. Do some duck hunting up there. Yeah, that's where I'll be. So I think we're going to do it on Portage Lake. I guess there's a bunch of little lakes up there, but I think that's the one we decided to do it on because there's some docks that are going to work for what we need. And my video folks have connections at some of the restaurants there, so we can get permission and do the stuff that we need to do. All right, let's see. Reddens part 1. I have an 89 Outboard Johnson. Always have to take the cover off once the motor runs after the third time. I always have to take the cover off, and once the motor runs after that, the third time. Let's see if part 2 clears that up. Then after I have to press on the rev lever, what's your opinion? Anytime you're talking about an engine that age and it's not running quite right, my mind automatically goes to, and remember, I just said, I'm not the technician guy. I had to bring somebody in that was the expert to do a video. So this is a very basic, but anytime I hear something like that, I think carburetor issue. I think, is the carburetor gummed up from ethanol? Are the fuel lines deteriorating and maybe there's getting some debris in the lines and starving fuel, or is there a fuel filter that's blocked? That's about as in-depth as I can get on diagnosing the issue, but that would be, if you haven't checked it, that's where I would start. Your opinion on me press down the lever each time I need to start up. Now, if it has a choke, there's going to be a choke and maybe a throttle on that 89. I'm not sure that it has it, but it very likely could. where it's got a choke lever where you need to start it with choke, or on some of the ones you push in the key and that's the choke to start it. And then once it starts, you release it and that lets the choke off. That helps those carbureted motors start better. Um, so, but if it's just the little lever, that's the extra rev throttle. If that's the case, you always have to do that to let it warm up a little bit. And when you push it back down to your normal throttle setting where you can go in gear, then I start to think it's a fuel issue and it's starving for fuel or something, and probably carburetor or something like that. That's about as deep as I can get in any diagnostic. So hopefully that's helpful and makes sense to you. All right. So I think Tom, let me know that I got you good, Tom. Is Chaparral a good boat? Yeah. Yeah. Chaparral's in the top 5, 6, 7 brands on the market. I think there was a time where they, depending on the year, if you go past like '05, I think they've stepped up their quality over time, is what I'll say, from like the early 2000s. That may have just been a perception of mine. But I ran, both of my buddies have '07 Chaparrals. I just mentioned it, a 236 SSI and must be a 216 SSI with, one's got a Volvo, one's got a Mercruiser, and they're great running boats. They're solid. They are, on the 230, maybe it's a 246. But on the bigger one, the one thing I don't like about is the weight distribution. The L shape and the walkthrough is on the port side. So, and this is just a personal issue, but I'm going to share it with you because I think it makes me laugh. These are the little things that you don't know unless if you demo the boat like you're going to use it. Okay. Because you would never figure this out unless you demo the boat the way you're going to use it. When we go, my wife likes to sit in the back corner L-shaped seat so she can face forward and she can stretch her legs out and she can see where we're going. And that's her spot in any boat. That's the spot she's going to go to, unless somebody else, it's their boat and that's their spot. But on this particular boat, the L shape is on the same side as on the starboard side, same time as the helm. So I'm 225. My wife is almost 6 feet tall. I'm not going to tell you how much she weighs, but so now we've got both of us on one side. My daughter is up in the bow, riding the bow like she likes to. And my oldest daughter is either sitting next to me or somewhere next to her mom. So we list a little bit. We list to the side that all the weight's on. You would never, and there's no trim tab. So, you would never know that. But it's why demoing a boat the way you are going to use it is so important, because you find those little things and you decide, can we deal with it or not? Can we slide the cooler over? Perfect. We just solved that problem without anything. Or, hey, that's really going to be problematic. This boat's not right for us. So, that may not be where your question was going, and then if you want, let's see here. If you would like my video, this video right here, best and worst bow riders. If you watch that video, Mary, you'll, I talk about Chaparral in there and I compare it to the other bow riders. So that would be a good resource if you want to dive a little bit deeper. Welcome, Eric Baker. Glad to have you. Thank you, Brock, for sharing that with Boater Tom. Appreciate it. There's an 87 Seville for sale locally. Beautiful boat. Goodbye. No place to store it. You need another one. Come on. Joseph, you are very welcome. Truck Diver. Welcome. Glad to have you back. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. I love it. Good deal. Glad you got that, Boater Tom. All right. Sasha, buying a 2010 Sea-Doo Challenger 180 jet boat. Are they any good? Be careful. Again, I say this about anything that's over 5, 7 years old is it's more about the boat and how well it's been taken care of. Those Sea-Doo Challengers, um, have had some known issues, partly because people that tend to buy jet boats tend to buy it because it's for the speed and the quickness and the agility. They tend to get a little bit rougher use. They also tend to be bought by first-time boat owners that may not know how to properly take care of things. Um, some of the and I talk about it in my jet boat video, and I talk about it in my boats not to buy. I kind of have a cutoff for like 2006, 2007 and back. Use jet boats. Be really, really cautious. A 2010 with the 167 hours, that's 16 hours, less than 16 hours a year. Um, Test drive that boat, demo that boat, have a technician that knows those engines, know who's going to fix it if something goes wrong. Because working on those jet ski engines and the jet drives, you can't just take it to a Mercury dealer. They won't touch it. A Yamaha dealer won't touch it. So be aware of that and make sure that you don't buy a boat that you don't have anybody work on. If you're going to do it yourself and you have those skills, different story. But if you don't have those skills, be very cautious. And when you run that boat, run it. Do my full checklist. Get the toolkit. Get that Boat Buyers Toolkit. It's totally free. Boatbuyerstoolkit.com. And you can get it. Go to Boater Secret Weapon and there's a link there where you can get it. But make sure that you're not buying a boat that's going to have issues that is going to be hard to get fixed, hard to get worked on. As far as the parts go, make sure that you have access to parts for that drive and for that engine, but before you write the final check. So let me know if you have specific questions, but those are my thoughts. Maybe it isn't exactly what you wanted to hear, but hopefully if you do buy the boat, it all checks out. You have a great experience, and hopefully that helped you buy with confidence. If you run it and you find that, it's spitting and sputtering, that's not exactly right. There's nobody to work on it. Hopefully it saves you from any issues. You're welcome, Tom. I'm glad I was able to get that answer and convey it in a fairly concise way. Jay Lynn over on Facebook, welcome, Jay. Is a cabin cruiser late 90s worth it if it had several things replaced? Trailerable cruiser fits all my needs. Pricey boat with no hour meter. Any way to find out? Probably not. If it's a fuel injected boat, which I can't imagine that it is in the 90s, it's got some sort of ECM on it that you can probably pull it off of. But if not, you really don't have any idea if there's no hour meter on it. Several things replaced. Here's the questions that brings up. It's a red flag. Okay. This is the way I like to look at it. In my First Time Boat Buyer Academy and some of my used boat videos, I talk about it's a red flag. What that means is it's not don't buy the boat. It's slow down, inspect, confirm, ask questions. Does everything make sense? And if everything checks out, okay, too many red flags, walk. So a late 90s, listen, put together a fund for fix-its. Something's going to break. You're going to have to replace and repair things on that boat. Doesn't matter if it's in the most perfect condition. It's 30 years old. Things are going to break and need to be replaced. Okay. So just know that's going to happen no matter what. There's no perfect cruiser, especially if it's got systems on it like air conditioning and galley stuff, and it probably doesn't have a generator if it's 24 feet. But here's what you need to do. Watch my video, how to buy a used cruiser, 24 to cruiser. So this video right here, how to buy a used cruiser for sale, 24 to 50 express cruiser boat. That's what you need to watch. That's going to go through everything that you need to look at. And I'm going to also say you may, if whatever amount you're investing in this boat is significant to you, you may want to get a surveyor. There's a lot of things, if you're a first time boat buyer, there's a lot of things that a surveyor will find that you won't. You can look at it and you can see the exact same thing and you're going to say, looks fine to me, sounds fine to me. And a surveyor is going to say, that's a problem, because they have the ear, they have they have the experience and the knowledge. So that on a 24-foot boat, it may be 700, $1,000, depending on where you are. But you can buy it more with confidence. You can do all the inspections first and you can rule it out if it's not going to work, but too many red flags, walk. You'll be happy you did. When it comes to they've replaced a bunch of things, here's what I want: invoices and specifics of what was replaced, excuse me, and who replaced it. So what I mean by that is if they had the lower unit replaced, they had the drive replaced. Well, okay, red flag, ask questions. Who did it? What all did they do? And are they then do some research on the person that did it? Was it Bob down the street that did it for $500 and it's only the first time he's ever done it? I don't like that. Certified Mercruiser technician did it, and he does 10 of these a year. He's got all the receipts, and he replaced the gimbal bearing and new bellows and shift cables, and he put a new steering cable in while he was in it. Then, okay, I'm good with that. Red flag resolved. Those are the types of things that you need to do. This video, the how to buy a used cruiser, that video will be helpful for you, because it'll open your eyes to some of the things if you haven't watched it yet. Pricey, well, that's relative to everybody, but if it's too much, keep looking. The cruiser market is one of the softest markets out there. Cruisers in that era, in the 90s, 80s, 90s, that was the thing. The cruisers were going like hotcakes. People loved them. They used them as floating condos, as second homes, weekend homes. They would go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they packed the marinas. Now they're not. Now there's a lot of used cruisers that haven't been used hardly at all. All those systems started failing. They got left in the water and didn't get maintained, and the drives got eaten up. And some of them have a ton of issues. Just be aware of that. The fact that if it's on a trailer, I like that better than if it spent most of its life in the water. Their deferred maintenance and things like that happen to boats that sit in the water often. But those are a few things to think about it. All right, Steve. Welcome, Steve. Bullhead City, Arizona. My Merc 496 HO is no longer beeping at startup. Does this mean I won't get troubleshooting beeps as well? I would think so. If you're turn your key just the first click, beep, beep, beep is what you usually hear, or at least one audible alarm. If it's not beeping, then that's actually what that is that's the low oil pressure alarm going off, right? There's no oil pressure. The engine's not running yet. So you'll hear that. When you crank it, it goes away because now oil pressure comes up. I just learned this on the video. This is for a Yamaha, but if it beeps while it's running and then you put it in gear and it stops, that means you got your fuel filter has water in it. I didn't know that. That was a new little thing I learned when I shot that video with Mike the other day. But my gut tells me that your beeper is no longer active, or there's a sensor or something's happened between the computer and the alarm. I don't know what goes out there. My gut would tell me it's probably a sensor versus the beeper. that the speaker, I guess, being the issue, but it would be something I would look at and have somebody try to diagnose. My guess is with some voltage meters that you could diagnose that pretty easily if you knew what wires to check. So that's about as technical as I can get on that answer for you. Jay, hopefully that, let's see, wanting to cruise to Bimini, is that feasible for passengers? Grew up on boats. All right. So Jay, one, if you're gonna run to Bimini, I don't know where you are for sure. But assuming it's a reasonable passage, make sure your boat is in perfect running condition. Make sure you have your safety equipment, ditch bag, VHF radios, handheld and mounted with a good long antenna. The longer the antenna, the longer the reach is. Ditch bag, safety equipment, all of that. Seamanship skills. So don't load up all your friends and go the first month that you have that boat. Get good at running that boat in some sloppy conditions. Get good at handling your boat. Know your boat, the sounds, the smells, the rattles, all of that, how it handles waves in different conditions, and then know how to read the weather. Know that the day we're going, 24-foot cruiser can, I'm assuming, can handle that trip. Again, I don't know exactly where you are, but a 24-foot cruiser can handle most conditions if you've got the fuel to get there, like a trip from South Florida down to the Bahamas or something like that. You're going to be fine. But your skills, your safety equipment, the boat's running order, and then what's the weather doing and what's it going to do on your way there, assuming it's not just going to take you the time allotted, put some time in there for some, we have to stop, something breaks down, some cushion. And then what's the weather going to be like on the way back? And don't tempt the weather. The weather is way stronger than anything. And don't mess around with it if you value your life and your friend's life. So, all right. All right. I think we're keeping up here. We're almost at holy crap. We're almost at an hour. I love it when all these questions are rolling in. We got people on. This is great. Sam says, are Cobalt bow riders worth the money? Where can I get a lightly used Cobalt on the West Coast from an owner? So, Sam, it's almost going to be the same answer if you heard me talk to, I think it was Devin. Devin asked about the Nautique the Nautiques. Are Nautiques worth the money? It's the same answer that I would give on any. Is the Boston Whaler is a contender worth the money? Is a whatever top brand worth the money? Depends on your situation. Is it a better boat? In my opinion, Formula, Cobalt, everybody else, like they're better. And I'd say this, my father-in-law has a 2000, what is it, 19, maybe it's an 18 R5 that he bought new. I'm fortunate enough that he lets my family and I run it. And anytime we're in Tennessee, that's the boat we're out on. And it's better. I've run all sorts of brands of boats. It's more solid. It's fit and finished. The upholstery is thicker. The hinges are more durable. Things just work the way you would want them to work. And if you watch my video, best and worst bow riders. So this one right here, best and worst bow riders in today's market. If you watch that video, I talk about it. If you watch, I do a Cobalt review video where I review the brand, give a little bit of history, but I also talk about the things I don't like about my father-in-law's boat. Now, they fixed it because this is why Cobalt's so good, is they found that, we could improve that design. So there were some little ticky-tacky things that I said, I wish they would have done this different, wish they would have done that different. Sure enough, when they switched their models over to the R6 and R8, those things were addressed and they're great boats. I haven't run those even number R's, but I've inspected them and I see the same things. So, but now compare that to a Bayliner or Tahoe. I've done a review on a Tahoe. I talk about value brands. I can have just as much fun on my father-in-law's Cobalt as I can with my family on a Tahoe. Now, is the upholstery as good and durable and solid and easy to clean up? No. Does it ride as smooth and as solid? No. Are there rattles and things coming loose? Yeah. Um, but I can go out and have a great time on a good, safe boat. Now, that's the extremes, right? So you say, okay, what about Sea Ray? What about Regal? What about Chaparral? What about Stingray? What about Monterey? What about any of the other in the category? And I talk about all of them in the best and worst video. Um, so yes, they're better in my opinion. Is it? Does it mean that the others are crap? Absolutely not. Great place to find it. There is a join the Cobalt users Cobalt. Oh shoot, what's it called? I'm a member of it, but Cobalt Owners Group. I joined it when my father-in-law bought his. I joined that because I was close enough to join the group, so I felt they would let me in, and they did. You can join that. They have boats for sale. Boat Trader, obviously. Um, from an owner, if that's really important to you, then Boat Trader, boats.com, Facebook Marketplace, maybe. But that Sea Ray Owners Club and then our Sea Ray Cobalt Owners Club and then Cobalt Owners Facebook groups. People in those groups will say, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling my, 2020 ba ba ba," and you'll find it there before they really list it anywhere. I wouldn't be opposed to buying from a dealer, especially if it's a good dealer. And if you go to the Cobalt dealers, here's the thing about Cobalt owners. They spent 100 and some grand on a boat brand new. They could have got a cheaper boat, but they didn't because they value quality. What they also tend to value is time. So most of the lightly used stuff, they're not selling it themselves to save the brokerage commission or to, save an extra 10 grand because they can get that much more selling it outright than trading it. Some of them will, but I'm generalizing. I'm stereotyping the Cobalt owner here. So most of them, if it's lightly used, have probably just traded up or said, you know what, we're not using this thing. Take it to the dealer and say, hey, dealer, just sell it for us. We're done. Charge us the 10%, and we want to be done with it. That's the Cobalt owner for the most part. So I think you're really cutting yourself short on opportunity if you stay away from dealers. My opinion, if you're buying a used boat, I'm gonna do a radius around the 200 miles that I want to travel, and I'm gonna open my search up in. What'd you say? You were in California, I think, West Coast. I'm gonna open my search up to the radius that I'd be willing to drive, and talk to those dealers. Let them know, hey, looking for a 242 2007 242 or whatever it is that you're looking for. And as Labor Day approaches, there'll be more and more that come available. I'm holding off on my market review, but the marketing's softening. And come Labor Day, not only will the market be softening a little bit, but the seasonal decline will have hit in Labor Day. And so you should have a little bit more time, Sam, to go and inspect them and to respond. And it won't be like boats for sale today, gone tomorrow. I think that those days are over. And but used cobalts are highly sought after because somebody else can take the first 5 years of depreciation. You can buy $100,000 boat for 60,000, and you got a nice solid boat. They are very desirable. Looking to buy motor yacht, going to be diesel. What do you recommend? Yeah, all of those are good. Um, Jimmy's dad, if you're looking used, I would say Sea Ray. I think the cruisers of all of those, and it depends on the years that you're looking at. Meridian, for a period of time, was made by Bayliner, um, but it was higher quality than a Bayliner. It was just made up in the Bayliner factories in like '09. They moved it down to Florida where the Sea Ray cruisers were made, and I think the Sea Ray cruisers, in the 40 plus category, if you're looking at diesels, are really really tough to beat in that style. The Meridians, their sedan bridges have a ton of room. I haven't run a Silverton, and actually, I don't even know that I've been on one that wasn't really old, but they've got a great reputation. Cruisers yachts, I would say, is probably, if you're in the lower end of that, their quality wasn't there. Now that MarineMax bought them, I think they're, and even in the last 5 years, I think they've stepped up a little bit. But the older ones, they weren't built to the standards. But again, like we talked about, if you're buying used, it matters more how that boat was treated than what the brand is after about 5 to 7 years. Because if it was cheap, it's going to have shown itself to be cheap. It's going to have broken. It's going to look worn. It's going to be coming loose or rattling or whatever. It's going to show itself if it's cheaper. So I think you're Jimmy's dad. You're on the right track. And then it's just a matter of, if you're going used, watch that cruisers video that I talked about. Even if you're not, even if you're going new, um, watch this cruisers video. It'll it'll open your mind to all of the systems that are on those big cruisers and motor yachts. Okay, so as you've got heating and air, generators, um, AC, DC electrical, head systems. You've got plumbing. You've got potentially macerators. You have, all different stuff down in the engine compartment. You've got whatever's in the galley. You've got all of those things that you need to check out to make sure they're in good running order. So I talked through a lot of that in that video. What's your thoughts on K2 powerboats, who designed glass rooms? David Kim, I don't know anything about K2 powerboats. Never even heard of them, actually. K2 powerboats. All right. Quality handcrafted vessels in Dothan, Alabama. When it comes to center consoles, there are so many brands. It's nearly impossible to know everything, and a lot of them are regional, especially down the Gulf Coast. Some of the flats boats down in like the Texas areas. Um, Company passion, 3 generations, sharing or commitment. Anytime, this is a interesting. Anytime you see a boat manufacturer and their promo photos don't have a Mercury or a Yamaha on them, they're probably a smaller dealer. This one has a Honda on it, and I noticed that instantly. That tells me they're a smaller player. That's not good or bad. That's just the reality of it. They don't build a ton of boats, which means that your resale value, you want to make sure that they're known in your market area if that's where you're going to resell it. Because some brands are going to be super popular in that region because they're a great boat for that style of boating and that type of water. But you go and you try to sell, a boat that's built down in, the Gulf Shore of Texas, a flats boat, and then you go try to sell that boat in, the Carolina coast. It may be totally unknown there, and people are going to be like, and your resale value goes down. Just something to keep in mind. But I don't know anything about these guys, David. Unfortunately, I can't give you any insights. Florida, North Carolina. Yeah, I mean, if you look for a center console builder, one of the most popular styles right now, they've got 10 dealers. And I don't know where you are, but keep that in mind. Keep the regionalness of the brand in mind when it comes to resale value, if that's important to you. If you're going to keep the boat for 20 years, it doesn't really matter. So all right. Sasha, you're welcome. Hopefully I didn't crush your dreams there, but hopefully it leads you to making a smart decision and a wise decision on the Sea-Doo Sportster. Sustainability, welcome. Thank you for the pictures of your queue. That was awesome, man. It's a good looking boat. Jose Lopez have a 97 Century with the 150 saltwater Yamaha. Gauges are difficult to see. Reputable place that will rebuild them. Now, Jose, I haven't, Ben, you're very welcome. Appreciate that. Jose, I have not used this company and I don't know the name of it, but there is a company that you can send the gauges out to and they'll repolish the glass. So you don't have to get all new gauges, but they'll bring the glass back to life so you can actually see it. Where if you go to like qualified cat or not qualified captain, if you go to Boat Owners United, I'm almost certain that's where I saw it. But I know there's companies that do that kind of thing. So just look for refurbish gauges and then ask in a couple boating groups that you're in about their reputation. I know there's one that I've seen over and over and over. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But absolutely those places are out there. And from what I've heard, there's a couple that do outstanding job. But I don't know their names off the top of my head. All right, Pontoon hydrofoil. What outboard boats would you recommend as a percentage of RPM to cruise at for best longevity over the long run? Again, I'm not percentage different. I'm not a technician. That's not where my expertise lies. With that said, what I've learned from the techs I've worked with is if you can run at 75 to 80% or under, you're going to be in good shape. It's that running that last 10% of wide open throttle that's where that's putting a lot of wear and tear on your engines. Even if you're going to run a decent amount at 80, 85%, okay, but just stay off that last 10% of the throttle where it's just going balls to the wall out. That is strictly, from what I've learned from others, feels like a good number based on the way they've explained it to me. But and as far as 2 strokes versus 4 strokes, I don't have any idea. I would guess it would be similar, but I would assume the 2 strokes can take a little bit more beating and than the 4 strokes would. So, maybe I would say the 2 strokes, you go up to 90% and be, for some percentage of running, not a majority by any means, but more than you would want to put on a 4 stroke. So, Tom, do I secure financing before or after I find a boat? Both. So, before, but you're not going to secure financing. They're going to approve Tom DeRosa. Okay. And I explained this earlier, but obviously I didn't explain it quite clearly. So let me see if I can explain it another way. They're going to approve you as a credit risk. Tom is likely going to pay his loan back. So they're going to look at your income. They're going to look at your credit. They're going to look at your debt to income ratio. And you're going to say, I'm looking for a boat that's going to be about 50,000 and I'm going to put 10,000 down. Okay. So I'm going to put 20% down. My loan amount's going to be 40,000. They're going to figure up the payment. I say, I'm looking for a boat that's less than 10 years old. I'm looking for a pontoon or a bow rider with this type of horsepower on a trailer, off a trailer. Okay. Now Tom is approved for a $40,000 loan. Now you find the boat, and now we got to make sure that the boat is truly worth $50,000 and it's of an age and style and accessories and equipment that we're willing to lend on, and the title checks out. And we know that there's a clear title, or if there's a loan, that the seller is going to pay the loan off before we will fund the loan. And we need to coordinate all that. So you can do it on Tom is approved, but Tom's not approved for every boat in the world. Tom's only approved for boats that they will approve. And then once you get the boat, they'll do it. It just makes it faster. When you're approved, it makes it faster to get the boat approved, and then you can move quickly and close it. So hopefully that different way of explaining made it a little bit more clear, Tom. David, you're very welcome. Pensacola, Florida. Okay. Jose, you're very welcome. I would think the old two strokes were a little more resistant to wear and tear, strictly based on what my 95 Mercury when I took it apart looked better than most of the four. Yeah, I would. That's where my gut would tell me too, Brock, is that those four strokes can be run a little bit harder. And I know how you run your bass boat, so that probably spent some time at wide open throttle, and that's it's why I think there's so many two-stroke just fanatics out there that are just crap on four strokes all the time, is because they were such durable, reliable, easy to work on things. And you know, then you get a four stroke that you get a little bit of water in the fuel and the thing starts dying on you, or starts spitting and sputtering. So, you know, they've got a point, but they're gone. So, been looking into having a permanent pier installed. Don't want to wait or pay the higher prices for storage marina. Putting my boat in. Sister just got her boat in. Yeah, it's so I've got the footage. I just need to put this video together of here's my ranking of the best way to store your boat: on a dock, on a lift, in your backyard. Like, that's, to me, that's the ultimate. The only problem with that is you got spiders. Okay. You got spiders and you got birds that you got to deal with, but you pull the cover and you're off. You're to the races. Next is the marina dry stack. On a nice clean dry stack. They put it in, they put it out. You got easy access. The only problem is you gotta time it a little bit if their forklift shuts down, or you gotta leave the boat in the water overnight so they can put it back. Minor problem. Wet slip in a marina on a lift is probably could flip flop. Wet slip in a marina, no lift. Now you got your boat in the water. On a trailer, you know, at a storage lot right by the water. That's pretty good. And then in your driveway is great because it's free. You can easily hook up and go. And then in a storage lot that's not super convenient to the water or the boat ramp. And that's probably the most frustrating situation. And yet you still get on the water. So yeah, get that baby up on a lift for sure. Fiberglass or aluminum, which is better? All depends. All depends on what you're doing, what type of boat. If I am, you know, walleye fishing up in Minnesota, aluminum's better. If I am running offshore on the Carolina coast, fiberglass is better. So the application that's why it's funny when people say, such and such is the best boat. You're stupid if you have a pontoon. You're not a real boater. Why would you want an outboard? Why would you want a stern drive? It's because everybody thinks of boating the way they boat, but there's hundreds of ways to boat. And because of that, there's hundreds of bests, and everybody's got different budgets. So there's even more layers to what's best. That's why I try to always ask questions before and I try not to. I'm guilty of it at times. Try not to just make blanket statements. Even in my most popular video that's got over 1 million views, the boats not to buy, those boats, there are boats that, yeah, on that list that some people should buy, that they want a project boat, that they know what they're getting into and that they enjoy that kind of thing. Disregard all my advice if that's what you want. But if you want to easy jump on the boat and go and not be a bunch of headaches, not be a bunch of work, I stand by my video. But even that one is like, this is great. This is advice everybody can use. Well, there's different people and different expectations and different goals, and those things all come into play. Devin, you're very welcome. Glad you joined us. Tom, you're very welcome. Glad to, hey, especially on this, when I don't have time to lay it all out and set my slides up and kind of go through the content, the easiest way to deliver it. Sometimes I get to rambling and get off track. So no problem. And glad you got the answer you were needing. Sinbad says, I'm thinking about buying a 90 Lures Turnant 342, my first boat. Any thoughts should be worried about? So same thing we talked about with some of the other folks that were looking at older type boats. So when you are looking at a boat that's 30 years old, let me pull up the 342 because there's another thing that I might add. Um, so for all right, so this is the boat that he's talking about, or probably not this one, but similar. Couple of things that you need to think about, Sinbad. One is watch my used boat video. I pulled it up a couple times. There we go. It's right there. Watch that video. This one right here. Used cruisers. Watch that video. And then the other thing that you need to consider is you're a first time boat owner. Okay. Sometimes bigger boats, older boats can be more difficult to get insurance and financing on. As a first time owner, an insurance company may say, man, that's a pretty big risk. Older cruisers have a history of being the ones, because they're typically going to be kept in the water. They have a bigger risk for sinking at the dock. Okay. Bilge pump goes bad. The maintenance gets deferred a little bit. Hurricanes. There's a lot of things that can happen. I'm assuming if with this boat, you're probably at the coast. So insurance companies can be hesitant. That start happening when you get to 35, 40 feet. And it's getting tighter and tighter. So they're going smaller, something to think about. Okay. And then this is a complex boat. It has a lot of systems. You've got everything in the galley. You've got the heating and the air and the head and the sink and the plumbing, and you've got potentially, generator, I'm sure. I don't know if they've got, 2 steering stations or not. They may. There's electronics. There's just a lot of stuff on these boats. And you need to make sure that you're inspecting it. You need to make sure that the boat is hauled out, and you run it in the water, and you look at it on the hard. You look at it when it's blocked up where you can get under it, see the running gear, see the drives if it has stern drives. Does it need bottom paint? If it does, well, guess what? That's about $3,000, maybe $2 to $3,000, depending on your area, depending on if you want to do it yourself. There's a lot of stuff that goes with it, and just understand the expenses. Understand that don't fall in love with the boat, because there's a chance that there's going to be too many red flags, and that you're going to need to move on to the next one and the next one and the next one to find the right one. So you don't buy the money pit that you're going to be cursing yourself for buying. And that's the biggest thing that jumps to my mind when I start seeing people looking at older cruisers. It's not don't buy it. It's inspect, get a surveyor, check for your insurance, make sure that you have your marina set up and that you have a spot to keep this boat once you buy it. Because if you can't find a marina slip in your area, like sustainability said, hey, my sister just got her boat in. It's not, if you're new to boating, that may come as a shock to you that it's difficult to find a place to put a boat like this. So those are just a few things to think about. And, all right, Brock, depends on the type of water. Guys, nice boats, aluminum. Yeah, that's exactly the application makes a big difference. Thank you, Brock, for hitting that one for me. Steve, thank you. Your videos have changed my experience on the water. I think the best thing I learned was the pivoting lesson. Yeah, that game-changing maneuver in my this actually, Steve, thank you. This is a perfect time for me to do my little commercials in the best boat captain on the water training, in my 9 building blocks, taking you from never having run a boat before to having total control. Step number 8, building block number 8, I call the game changer. It's the pivot maneuver. And if you can master that, if you can get comfortable with that and you understand how your boat does it, it really gives you a lot of confidence. And that's the maneuver that I get most of my comments on, that and the spring line technique. Those two things are the ones that people say, wow, that made this situation doable for me when I never would have done it, or that made me so much more confident. So I appreciate that, Steve. You can get that at bestboatcaptain.com. We've got a pontoon version. We've got a single engine version. If you're a trailer boater, we have Trailer Like a Pro, Tow Water Sports with Confidence, as well as a Boating Fun Amplifier toolbox, which is just kind of a toolbox of different skills and techniques and strategies that you may need as a boater. That, like we said, the application makes all the difference. Where you boat, how you boat, the type of boat matters. And so in that toolbox, I just throw a bunch of things out that something's going to hit for you and be a big improvement. Um, Everything comes with the money back guarantee. If you're not totally blown away by it and love it, ask for a refund. You get it. And then somebody else mentioned the First Time Boat Buyer Academy. If you're looking to buy a boat, you want to make sure you make a smart decision, and you want to make sure that you get the best possible price. My magic money saving method has saved people thousands of dollars over and over and over and over. Even during the pandemic, people were saving. I would get an email, hey, I saved $2,500 on the price that I would have paid, or the price I thought was their lowest. I use your technique, and boom, we saved even more. So that one's pretty awesome too. If you're a buyer, if you're like, this lie's been great, but just give me the free stuff, go grab the toolkit. It's 25 pages. It looks like this, and it's just packed with checklists and how to demo and just everything that you need to think about so you don't miss something. It just keeps you on track. And then the Boater Bootcamp, if you're a new boat owner, it teaches you the things that new boat owners should know, that they just, because they're new to boating, they just don't. And it will be something that it's going to save you some money. It's going to save you some hassle. It's going to save you some headache along the way. It's information that you really should have. It's not a boater safety class. It's not that. It's just, what do owners need to know about 3 different topics: boat systems and equipment, boat navigation, and rules of the road, and emergency situations. So that's what we cover in that, but it's free. Just get them. I'm going to make you an offer to buy the Best Boat Captain or to join the First Time Boat Buyer Academy. If you don't want to do it, fine, don't do it, but get the free stuff. You'll be glad you did. And all right, so that's that. Let's get back to business here. Oh, there we go. Jimmy's dad. Thanks, Captain Matt. That advice is great. We're looking at a 40 plus Sea Ray. It's about 20 years old, so definitely a survey is at the yeah, for sure. And you know, those diesels will run 20,000 hours. Just make sure they've got a good maintenance schedule. Because if you do have some repairs on diesel mechanics are even another level of specialty, and finding good ones in some areas can be difficult. So, maybe even have a diesel mechanic go through that puppy and just verify that everything's good. Do the sniff test. Jimmy's dad, there, with a boat that old, if they haven't replaced some of the plumbing lines, there can be an odor. And that's something I would encourage you to just go ahead, and if it hasn't been done, replace them. If you feel them and they're kind of sticky, that's a sign of deterioration. So just plan on changing all that stuff out, and upgrading as needed, so that you don't have a nasty accident. And it'll also keep the odor down in the boat just as you use it, if you're going to be using it that way, overnighting. David Kim, I agree, Matt. You've been great. Thank you. Also, if you have any thoughts on the model, would appreciate it. Hey, David Kim, send me an email to, where are you? Banners. David Kim, send me an email to this address, and I'll do some digging on them. I'll look at them. I always, anytime somebody brings up a brand I don't know, I always do kind of a dive on them just to see what I can learn, and so that the next time somebody asks a question, I add one more brand to my, at least I can talk a little bit about it. And so go ahead and shoot that over to me, and I'll send you my thoughts on it. Maybe I'll even turn it into a video. Who knows? That's probably what I should do, is just make, once I do a dive, just do a video on it so I can share it with everybody. Sustainability. Do you think it's okay to store my own covered lift, my property, with just the mooring cover? Should I shrink wrap it? Upper Illinois winter. Sustainability. If it depends. So a couple things you want to look out for is, can critters get in your regular mooring cover? Do you have a covered slip? So can you, and lay your Bimini top back, or that arch. I think you've got the Q has the fiberglass arch that should lay down. Raise it up as high into the rafters as you can. Caveat: if your lake level adjusts and that will put you into the ceiling, don't like be smart about that. If you've got a fixed pier, or if you've got a floating dock, understand where your lake levels go, so that if they adjust, your boat's going to be safe all the time. But what I wouldn't just do the regular mooring cover. I think you've got a beautiful boat. If you've got a roof, what I would do is I would probably get a full cover, like a winter cover that kind of goes all the way around, covering the front and the back, and then drawstrings around and ties nice and tight so that there's nothing that's going to get in there. Make sure that baby is clean. Make sure that baby is dry. Put some dry rid. If you're storing it on the water, put some dry rid buckets throughout. Leave your cushions up and open, and watch my winterization video. I talk about some of it, but I think if it's uncovered, if you don't have a roof on your dock, then I would say just go ahead and shrink wrap it. I think you'll be less worried all winter if you do shrink wrap it. Put a door in that makes sense so you can get in there if you need to. But if you've got a roof, just get a big winter cover that's going to go over the whole thing, including the platforms, and then drawstring and be tight, and can maybe even buckle under. A custom canvas guy can build virtually anything that you want to do it. That will cover the arch, just cover everything. If you don't have a roof, then I would say just go ahead and shrink wrap it. I think you'll be happier if you do that. And that's also going to keep the snow from piling up and ripping your canvas and causing a bigger mess and disaster. The way they'll build the structure on the if they do it right on the shrink wrap, is the snow and ice should just slide right off. That's why I think it matters if you have a roof or not. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, shoot me an email, and I can answer any other questions there, because we're at an hour and a half now. David Kim, yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I like to do these lives, is I learn some stuff. Brock will answer a question that I'm like, oh, that's a great answer. That's information that I had no idea. Or somebody will ask something that will drive me down a rabbit hole to learn something new. And then it's just fun to talk boats for a while. And it also, I get so many comments. If you guys ever see one of my ads or something on Facebook, and you're like, they say, this is a scam. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy's an idiot. This guy's he's a scam. He says it's free, and then he charges $57 for it, or charges $197 for it, or whatever the product is that they're looking at. Like, no, you can get the toolkit and you can get the boot camp for free. Give me your email and I'll send it, and you get access to it. Yes, I do try to sell you something because this is my livelihood. But if you just want the free stuff, it's yours. There's no scam. I'm a real guy. It drives my wife crazy. I am as honest as I can be. I've got my guarantee. I don't screw anybody or try to pull any shenanigans. but I do try to sell my stuff. And so if you ever see that, just comment and be like, no, this guy was helpful. He didn't charge me anything for the live. He gave me good advice, or he pointed me in the right direction. If you see that, that would help me out a lot. That would be great. Or leave a Facebook or a Google review and just say, been on the lives and it was good, or I invested in a program and it was great. That I would super, super appreciate that very much. Brock, I've seen one of those K2s in Travels, Dirty Myrtle, never been stopped. Rhonda, if you're on, Brock apologizes. He loves Myrtle Beach. Looked at it, but driving by them, they have a very good looking lines. Yeah, that I was thinking that same thing when I saw it. So awesome, guys. All right, we are at an hour and a half. I've got to get up. My daughter set her alarm for 5:30 to get up for school. She leaves the house the bus comes at 6:30 in the morning for my 8-year-old. So I've got to get up, get the girls breakfast cooked, and my wife and I got to get them on the road for the first day of school. So I'm going to call it quits. Thank you all so much for joining. I think we had a record number. We had over 60 people on the live at one point tonight, which is awesome. Thanks everybody for the great questions. Thanks for the nice words. If you would, if anybody would mind, leave a review on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're at, or Google, I guess. Just let everybody know about your experience. I would super, super appreciate that. And we'll see you next Sunday. And I'll have stories from my first professional video shoot with like real actors and camera people, and it should be interesting. So I'm sure I'll have some interesting things to share then. Thanks everybody, and we will catch you then. Holy smokes. All right. We just got a band. Let's block that guy. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you, David Kim. Sinbad, the new boater class, just go to boaterbootcamp.com and you can check that out there. I should have put that website on here. I don't know why I didn't, but just boaterbootcamp.com will get you. Or if you go to Boater Secret Weapon, scroll down like a third of the way, 2/3 of the way down, and you'll see a spot where just put in your name and email address, and it'll set you up in the members only area. So, all right. Thank you guys, everybody. And we will catch you next week.